sit. This is Hazel. Hazel has separation anxiety, which is basically a panic attack when she's left alone. This usually comes from dogs that don't have any rules and structure, they're insecure, and they don't have any practice at being alone. This is why it's so important when you have a puppy to set up a long-term confinement area for them to sleep in and eat in and be there when you can't supervise them or you go to work. Sit, that's passive training. So that the dog actually practices being alone. We didn't do that for her and she's very nervous. So she was afraid to go in the kennel. Now a lot of guardians, they just shove the dog in the kennel, they trick the dog or they put the dog in the kennel. We've been working on it and now she's a lot more comfortable. So I'm going to show you the first trick of this, and I'm going to show you how to teach your dog to stay, which is my preferred way of helping a dog learn to practice being alone. So what I do is I take a treat and I throw it in. Actually, that didn't go as the way I wanted, but that's pretty good that I can lean like that and she didn't go away. Whoops. I can't throw it at all when I'm filming, evidently, huh, Hazel? So the word for this is ranch. I like coming up with funny command words. So I throw the treat in, when she goes in and licks it up, I say the word ranch. Now, a couple things you can do. If your dog is afraid of the kennel, you can actually close the door and then drop a treat in. Whoops, make sure they stay in there. Now she was really crafty. When I first did this, she just used her tongue and her paws to scrape them and get them to her. So basically the dog can't get to the kennel or get to the treats that are in the kennel. So what I usually do, the first thing is I just keep on tossing the treats in. First, if the dog wanted to come to the kennel, I put the treat here. Then here, then right inside the kennel and further back. And I keep on doing that, and I don't tell the dog to go in. I just let the dog see me throw it and keep doing that until the dog eventually goes in with all four paws without a lean. See, her back legs was leaning a little bit. Sometimes if they are uncomfortable, they look like they're stealing second base. So I usually wait until the dogs are pawing at it because they want to go in there. Then I open it up and let the dog go in, and every time it licks up the treat, I say the word ranch, ranch, ranch. So you see, she went into all four paws, she's lingering. This is a good indication the dog is comfortable here. Now, I have videos on doggoneproblems.com about kennel training to a down. I'm not going to go through them in this video because it's going to be a pretty long video if I do. But if you go to doggoneproblems.com, click on dog training tips. There's a search box on the right side. Type in kennel training to a sit. And there will be a video that comes up for our puppy class. I think it's there. Well, if you can't find it, let me know. But you can go and get on our YouTube channel. Hazel, puppy, 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 puppy. Hazel, she's behind the camera. Hazel, Hazel. There we go. Hazel, treat. So basically, what you want to do is teach the dog to kennel train it down. So if you want to just kind of use your right hand and escort her to the edge of the couch so she gets down. There you go. All right, Hazel. All right, so for dogs that have separation anxiety, it's essentially a panic attack. And some dogs actually lose control of their bowels. The dog's not having an accident. The dog is literally losing control of its capacity to hold it because they're in a panic state. And can you see me in the shot? It looks like it's going very this way.
No, you're right.
Am I in the center of the shot? Turn it a little bit so I'm in the center if you could. There you go. All right, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to teach your dog to stay. Hazel, come here, buddy. All right, so a lot of people teach their dog to stay, and I'm going to do it stay. They try to teach the dog stay. Duration and distance and distractions all at the same time. Stay. So now I count 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I give it a treat and I say stay. So I create a command word for it. And I say stay as a command stage. I pull my hand to my breast and I'm going to count to 8 in my head. Always count in your head so you know what count you're at. Stay. So I'm giving her the hand signal at the same time that I'm doing this. I lost my treat pouch. That was not good. Always have a bunch of treats with you. So yes, well, fortunately somebody likes our treats and is going to do this again. So if I try to teach stay and then I start taking steps away, I'm doing distance and distraction. That's one of the most common mistakes people make with stay. And then it's harder for the dog to do it, and the dog starts coming towards you and it's doing what we call an auto release. When you're teaching to stay, sit, that's passive training, you want your dog to stay until it hears the release word. Now I'm going to use the release word of vacation for her. I say release, break, freedom, or parole for my own personal dogs. I like fun command words. So to do this, I have a bunch of treats in my hand. So have more treats than the number of repetitions you're going to do. So you want to keep on practicing for duration until your dog can stay for 5 minutes at this distance. So we'll do by 3. So we'll do 3, 6, 9, and I'll release. Stay. And I put my hand on my chest. And I count 1, 2, 3. Don't look at her the whole time. Stay. So now I'm going to do it again. Stay. 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 Now to tell her that we're done, I'm going to throw one treat to the side, and I say vacation. So normally I would practice more than 3 times. I'm just doing this expediently for this video. So maybe you want to keep the practice, generally when you're teaching to do a trick or command, you want to keep training to 90 seconds or less, a minute and a half. You want to go in there? That's awesome. Ranch. And so the idea is you keep on going, so maybe 3, 6, 9, 12, 6, and go up to whatever it is. And then the very last one, you throw the treat a foot or 2 away so she gets up and you say the word release or vacation is what we're saying here. And the next time you maybe go by 4s. And if you go from 4s to 5s, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and at 4.5 she gets up and walks away. She's saying, I'm not ready for that. So you back up to the previous step. That's why you always want to count in your head. So eventually you get to the point where you can say stay and have the dog stay right there for 5 minutes. And we think that's super easy. For dogs, they'll start doing different things because they want the treat. Now, if your dog's too attracted to the treat in your hand, you might hold it to your side or behind you like this. And I hold my hand like this, and I usually keep it here on my breast. And the dog looks like it's going to start getting up in auto stay. I might go like this, and that'll kind of attract the dog's attention, a little bit of a movement. So I keep on, Hazel,
she likes that camera.
It probably smells like it's been in my bag, so it smells like treats. Hazel, there we go. So the idea is I'm going to keep on doing this until I can get her to stay for 5 minutes into a stay just with me right here. This is the easiest version of the stay. The next step, and I won't get up, sit, because I'll get out of the shot. But I would say, once I get to 5 minutes, now I'm going to start incorporating distance. So I go back to 0, and I'm standing, and I would say stay, and I would take 1 step backwards. I would count to 2, then take 1 step forward, stay. Next time I would take 2 steps backwards and count to 4. Hazel, this looks better if we have a puppy in the shot. And so the idea, that's where I start off. I take the number of steps I move backwards, I multiply times itself. So 1 step backwards, I count to 2. 2 steps backwards, I count to 4. 3 steps backwards, I count to 6 as the pause. So I'm gradually helping the dog practice me moving further and further away each time until I can get to the point where I'm about 15 or more feet away. Now let's say that there is a wall right here. So you can't see me if I'm on this side. The wall goes from here and stops right here. So let's say I'm moving further away. I'm at 20 feet and she's staying. And then I would take 1 step to the side. I'm out of her vision for 1 second and then I come back. And then I march back to her, sit, and I give her the treat and say stay. Then I march backwards again. And then this time I step out of line of sight for 2 seconds. Now when you're doing this, it's helpful if you have a mirror or somebody's in the room watching her. So if she gets up out of the stay and you won't be able to see it, maybe the person coughs. Well, then you would go back, if let's say I went from 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, she was fine. And then I went from 5 to 10, and at 9 seconds, she got up and walked away. Again, I would back up and practice at a previous iteration. I practiced at like 7 seconds. So the idea is keep on doing this. Hazel, if you want to escort her off so she doesn't, yes. So basically, you want to keep on doing this until eventually you get to the point where you can be out of her line of sight for considerable periods of time. Now we can start using this stay to help her practice being alone. I haven't asked the guardians this, but I'm guessing they probably don't use the bathroom by themselves. At least one guardian who has the dog right now probably always has an audience when that guardian is using the bathroom. Hazel's probably in there with her. So separation anxiety is a panic state. Either I have to be with you, or I have to be with someone, or I lose control. I'm too insecure to do it. So the idea is to put her in a stay and then go to the kitchen and get a drink of water and come back. And she can see you the whole time, but you're moving further away. And eventually stay and I go in the bathroom and come back and release her. I put her, or vacation her. And then I put her in a stay and I go down the stairs and I put her in a load of laundry. Now, the idea is to make this very progressive. So you don't want to like go for 1 minute and then 10 minutes. Sit. Remember, only say it once. If I say it multiple times, I don't mean it. So I've got to lure her here. Sit. As soon as she sits, she gets that. She even said please by raising her paw. So the idea is we want to help her stay for progressively longer and longer periods of time. Now, eventually now for dogs, once you get to 2 hours, you don't have to practice beyond 2 hours. Once they can master something in 2 hours. I don't think she'll have to practice till 2 hours, but she just really has no practice being alone. When you guys leave, she probably starts freaking out before you actually leave the house. So these are triggers, and this is something I usually talk about at the beginning of the video. So when you sit in, now this is, the family just moved to this as a new house, so we don't have as many triggers as we normally do. But I sit in this chair and I put on my shoes, I pick up my keys, and I was like, he always does that right before he leaves. So what you want to do is recreate those things without leaving. So sit in the place you put your shoes on before you go out, pick up your keys, put them in your pocket, then pull them out of your pocket, put them back on the table, and go sit back down. So put on your shoes and walk to the door, and then turn around and walk back and sit back down. So what we're doing is recreating part of the departure ritual and helping the dog practice that multiple times without us actually culminating with leaving. And after, what's that?
To calm her down.
So, well, to help her not, because most dogs in separation
Desensitize.
anxiety, they start getting worked up before you actually leave. By the time you leave, they're in a full-fledged panic. So I have clients who are like nurses. They put on their scrubs. They're like, oh, you're about to leave for 12 hours. I tell them, practice putting your clothes on, your scrubs on, and say they're watching morning cartoons or whatever it is. And that way the dog sees that uniform and doesn't identify. That always means that we're leaving. So you want to identify all of the individual triggers. You might be putting on your shoes, picking up your sunglasses, picking up your purse, your keys, your remote control. You know, we have some glass cases over here. So you want to just go through, make sure whatever they are and practice all of them individually at first, then start practicing them in combinations. You have a question?
So if you always leave, like I always have my purse and keys in the laundry room, practice going in
go
there.
over there, pick them up, and pick them up as noisily as possible. And you're not putting her to stay for this. You're just going over there, picking it up. And sometimes she goes and picks up her keys and purse and puts it on her, and then she comes and puts it back down and she sits back down.
Okay.
And eventually you pick up your keys and purse and go in the garage and close the door of the garage and then immediately open it back and come back in and sit back down. Next time you go and do that a couple times. And then after you do that a while, then you open the garage and open the garage door for the outside. And then as soon as it's up, you press the button so it goes in and come back inside. So each time you leave, you're kind of recreating all of the things, the mannerisms and sounds and sensations she's going to hear, but then we're not having the final act of you being gone. At the same time we're doing this, we're practicing teaching her to stay. And don't just practice here. Make sure you practice here, in the kitchen, in the dining room, in the bedrooms. Dogs don't generalize well. They need to practice things in different situations. Okay. So the idea is once you get to the point where you can say stay, you put her in the bedroom and say stay and come out here and watch a TV program for half an hour and then go back and release her. Now she practices being alone, but in an easy capacity because you're still in the house. She hasn't heard the door open, so she knows you're still here, but she can't see you. And that's basically practicing the behavior in the easiest version possible.
I can't imagine her ever.
But you couldn't imagine her not getting the treat and laying down, and she did that pretty quickly. You couldn't imagine her going to the kennel.
True.
So I want you to keep an open mind. A lot of people close their own mind and what their dog is capable of doing. These things just take time. I had one dog that got was so paranoid to be in the kennel. He used the kennel exercise I recommended at the beginning, early part, where I stand here, I'm blocking the dog from exiting the kennel. It was drooling in the kennel with such volume, they thought it was urinating in the kennel. It was a boxer. I did this exercise. It took me an hour and 15 minutes of standing right here before the dog laid down. You have to, whoever blinks first loses.
Wow.
So I had to be willing, and the guy that's paying me is looking behind me, and I could feel him burning daggers in the back of my neck going, why am I paying this kid to just sit here and stand in my kennel? Well, basically what's going on, she really likes the smell of that tripod. Basically, but as soon as the dog laid down, and who's going to spend an hour and 15 minutes? Next time, it was 15 minutes. Next time after that was like 4 minutes. After that, the dog was laying down right away. So the idea, and I would just escort her off the couch. There you go. The idea is to help the dog progressively get longer and longer or shorter and shorter. In this one, the dog has to lay down before we step away. And at first time, it was an hour and 15 minutes. Then it was shorter and shorter each time. Well, for the stay, we're kind of doing the opposite of that. We're putting the dog to stay, and then we're walking out of sight. And at first, we're only out of sight for 1 second, then 2 seconds. This is why always count in your head. Anytime the dog fails, back up a couple seconds and practice at the previous easier version a couple times till the dog can do that successfully. And remember, every time we get done, you always throw the treat off the side and say vacation, or whatever the word is if you change it from vacation to something else. And that way the dog is practiced being alone with knowing you're here. We're also simultaneously desensitizing, come here, Hazel. We're desensitizing her of all the individual triggers that are associated with leaving and helping her practice that. And after enough practice, then the dog's just like, oh yeah, I can hang out being alone. I've practiced being alone. And now when we actually leave, come here, sweetheart. I just want to hold you a little bit. It'll look better on the film. Yes, and that's the first time I've held her. But basically, eventually she feels confident in being in a room without seeing another human there, but knowing the human's right next door. and then confident doing that longer and longer periods of time. Yes, sweetheart. Until eventually we get to the point where she can do it for long enough where you can start leaving the house. Then you would actually go through the process. You don't tell her to stay when you leave the house though. You would just go out, and you've already desensitized. You go out, open the garage door, open the car door, close the door, open the garage door, maybe start your car, turn it off, and come back inside and sit back down. And that's coming even longer. The first time I'd just go in the garage, open the door, close it, and then come right back in and sit down. Next time I'd stay in the garage with the door closed for 2 seconds, 3 seconds. When I get to about maybe 30 seconds, that's when I start opening the car door. Then I would get in the car and start the car, open the garage door. Eventually you're back in your car just out of the driveway and turning right back in. Then you're driving all the way onto the street. Then you're driving, the neighbor's driveway, turn around and coming back in. So again, each time you're making the step progressively longer and helping her practice it until eventually she's comfortable. But it's because we go at such small steps, she doesn't panic. The whole idea with having your dog in the kennel or being in the home is to be alone, not panicking. If you put your dog in the kennel, sorry, sweetheart, and then you just close the door and she starts panicking, she's practicing freaking out in the kennel. So when I do this, and this is something else I'd like the guardians to do. Here, Hazel, come here, hang on, sweetheart. Is practice putting these treats in like we're doing throughout the session until she'll eventually go and sit in here and hang out by herself on her own.
Yeah.
And and then the idea is she's comfortable being in here. Well, this is Hazel. Yes, and you're such a cutie. And this is Hazel's, these are tips and tricks that you can use to teach your dog to stay, to help it get over separation anxiety.